let's go, Marky Mark. Start streaming. I hope the microphone's hooked up.
Oh, man.
That would suck.
Yep. Somebody will tell us.
Somebody will tell us. Let's see. Is it working? Where is the checker? All right.
You are live, yeah?
You are live. Isn't that supposed to be green?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe, yeah. Going for 16 seconds, according to that guy.
Yeah, but this says nobody. So let's see. That's unusual. Let's see if I made it like the wrong privacy or what. To stop.
Been doing some private streams.
No, but Lewis comes around and messes up stuff. All right. Here's some people. Hi, all. We can see and hear you. Great!
Right.
Hooray! All right, then let's find what happened to my chat window. Let's find it. All right. Yikes. Let's check right here. There we go.
There you go.
All right, it's working. Hooray! I voted. Oh, we both. Hey, look, we're twins. Oh my gosh. Have we been twins all day?
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So, let's talk CPU swapping. That's the big thing these days, swapping CPUs. So we wanted to do this stream tonight to share with you some tips and tricks that we've learned along the way with CPU swapping. We wanted to share with you kind of a little bit of background and the history of this, and then we want to give you a little hint of what's coming up this May. We're so excited about our partnership that we're working on with some really amazing people, and we are going to kind of have a little East meets West action going on with our masterclass that's coming this May. Almost ready to announce that and give you all the details and sign up. So we're going to talk a little bit tonight about CPU swapping and answer all your questions. So we'll be checking in with you here on our chat window. All right, your voice is going so slow. Great, a complaint. Please lodge that on our complaint desk. We'll be so excited to read all those. All right, so I kind of wonder if like these change in open broadcaster settings is messing anything up. All right, so here's the deal with CPU swap. We get asked on the channel a lot, it looks like you're putting a lot of time into fixing that iPhone 6. Why don't you just swap the NAND over and just read the NAND on another board or read it off? I made a blog post on iPadRehab.com about the data deal breakers. And so in order to actually get data, you can't just read it off the NAND because it's encrypted. Full disk encryption since the iPhone 4S. So you can transfer the NAND, but in order to be able to have meaningful data recovery, you need to also transfer the CPU and a couple of other unique chips on the device. Now, that has historically been a problem in the iPhone 6 series and earlier. And the reason is because CPUs in general, they're data processing. They're not made of the thick, heavy-duty power lines like a power management chip. They're made of the thin, ethereal, fairy-like wires that are meant for ones and zeros. So think of them like a little, telephone wires, thin, 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 versus a bigger, heavy-duty chip. So they're really delicate. And one thing that they don't like is to get hit with the wrong electricity. They don't like to get hit with wrong voltage. So one of the things that has gone on a lot with the iPhone 6 is doing all this, let's just re-hot the power management chip, or changing the power management chip, which is directly on top of the CPU. So there's a lot of overheating of the CPU, and then there's a lot of bridging of the power management chip, sending wrong voltage into the CPU. This is what I'm talking about. Let's look at an example. I want you guys to know, in the old days, this is sort of the old school stuff. This is what CPU looks like. So we're gonna move this. All right. Are you like reading chat on your phone?
Some of them are saying that your voice sounds too low, so I'm gonna pull the stream on the phone and see.
Is it because I'm sick?
That's what I'm checking.
Do you have a helium balloon that I could just drink?
Oh no, it's definitely like octaves lower.
Is it?
Like -2.
Do you sound like a black porn star? Let's hear it.
A
Come
little
on. Tell about the CPU. Black porn star? Let's hear it. Tell about the CPU. Oh my God, that's bad.
Yeah.
That happened once before. I don't remember what it was. This is why I hate making any kind of changes.
Yeah, it's Lewis jumping in and like setting your audio to something.
I don't remember what it was before.
Oh boy.
Okay.
All right, so we just have to talk higher.
Oh my God. Okay. Oh my God, that's gonna be so lame. That's bad because I really do kind of have like that sick congestion kind of voice.
Yeah, already.
Okay. All right. Let's look at this CPU. This just is what it is. All right. So this is an iPhone 6. So this is the A8 CPU, and you can see that the A8 CPU is a double layer chip where it's got pads on the bottom that go on the board, and then it has pads on the top, and this top is meant to connect to a top thin little SD RAM chip. Now that's super thin, and so the SD RAM chip goes on the top, solders on top, and it makes this little double stack. And that's really challenging, as you can imagine. You've got to get these two guys married together and get them both soldered onto the receiver logic board. Now that is a challenge, but it's doable as long as the CPU itself is electrically intact. So this one, I just took off a donor board so that you can see what one looks like. And I want to kind of do a quick little measurement here of a line that goes bad a lot in these CPUs. So it's the brain stem of data is the 1V8 power line. The 1V8 power line goes in the CPU lots of places. It goes all over the board lots of places. And it's sort of the top line that is the one for all the ones and zeros in the data lines. So we can measure, this is ground over here this is ground, and we can measure 6 over and 6 down to get to 1V8. And let's just take a reading. All right, Mark, can you tell me, let's just do, let's do ohms to ground maybe?
Okay.
All right.
We are on ohms.
All right, so is this 0 ohms to ground? Why don't we do diode mode?
Okay, let's do diode.
All right, diode mode, so that makes sense to most people. All right, is that 0?
It is 0.000.
All right, so then we'll go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And that is 0.569.
All right.
0.570.
All right, 0.5. That is the diode mode. What is it in ohms? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What is it?
1.334 mega ohms.
That's a lot of ohms. So that's a lot of resistance between the 1V8 line. This is internal to the die of the CPU. That's a normal CPU that I just took off of a iCloud lock board. Now I want to tell you about the phone that I was working on last night. Unbelievably, we found that both my twin Mark and I happened by chance to be working on the exact same problem on 2 different phones. So this one was mine. Where's yours?
It's over here.
All right. Well, I'll tell you the story of mine, and you can tell me the story of yours.
Okay.
This is an iPhone 6 that was here with water damage, and it was here for data recovery. It's not recoverable, and it says he's hoping to get contacts and pictures, and it's been to a prior repair attempt, and
Of course.
the different repair shop said that there's a short on PP1V8 SD RAM. So there's not a short on PP1V8 SD RAM, but
We're close.
we're really close. All right, so this board had, I think one of its things that it had when I first got it, it had a lot of work done to it already, but it still had its native Mason chip, and its Mason chip, you can see, has a 1V8 line right here, and you can still see even now how corroded, that's just frank corrosion, that 1V8 line was. So when I took off Mason, there was a lot of corrosion there. And when I measured around, I could measure that this board yesterday had a 1V8 short to ground. Now, why is it short to ground? It could be any chip or any cap that has a connection to 1V8. So I looked around in some of the possible places and kind of ruled those out. Rather than go head to toe across this board, from experience, we know that 1V8 shorts with that history and presentation are likely to be internal damage to the CPU. So the next thing that I did is I took the CPU off of this phone, and guess what? The short went away. So if we measure in diode mode here on the board, on the 1V8 rail, we can go red probe on ground and get a diode mode reading. What is it?
0.378.
All right, so that is now no 1V8 short on the board because it was relieved when I took off the CPU. So here's the CPU from that board. All right, here's the CPU. So I've split off the, I've split out the SD RAM. I did that after the fact, after measuring for this. Let's see, it goes like that. Now let's do the exact same thing and see what is the diode mode reading within the internal structure of the CPU itself. So we can go ground, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, oops, I already forgot it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What is it?
0.006.
0.006. All right, so that means that in the chip itself, inside the actual structure of the CPU, is where the thin little wire of 1V8 is touching ground inside the CPU. So
What's the resistance?
Oh yeah, what is the resistance? The resistance is, let's see. Let me get on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
10.3 ohms, down from
Wow.
1.4 million.
Wow, 1.4 million ohms down to 10. And that's the brain stem. This is the brain, and that happened while on the board. So that's really common in those older models like iPhone 6 series CPUs. That's how they would get damaged. They would get electrical damage. And that is a data deal breaker. So that phone is not recoverable because you need the unique CPU, the native CPU for the device in order to transfer it or do anything. That's got to work, and we can't fix that, at least not with today's technology. So for a long time, we would just, not spend a lot of resources. We would work with partners in China to kind of keep up with those guys doing CPU swaps. And you see China doing CPU swap, and doing a lot of CPU work all of the time. And when we would kind of work them with these 6 series phones, if the phone was in a state where it needed a CPU transfer, the CPU was almost always already dead due to electrical damage. However, that has all changed. So now everything is different. And that difference came with the iPhone 7. So the iPhone 7, 8, 10, and 10s, they're very different structurally. So the CPU structure is really different. So I'm going to pass off here to Mark, who can tell us about structural differences in the iPhone 7 CPU. So why don't you walk us through This is an iPhone 7. There you go.
All right.
I will look at audio settings one here and now everybody can make fun of Mark's voice.
All right. So this is the iPhone 7 CPU, and the most important thing that is changed is that it is still a dual layer chip, but they've used a much stronger glue between the two layers, and they may have used a higher temperature alloy. I've noticed when trying to separate, it's a lot more difficult than it used to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, so that difference really changes the approach to removing the CPU and changes the possibilities in what you can do.
Right. So before, if you were going to do a CPU swap, you definitely had to split the RAM, because otherwise the underfill there would allow the solder balls to just bridge together, and you would end up with short circuits within that top layer RAM between the double stack. And you had to kind of carefully get your CPU on and then carefully reball the RAM, put the RAM on top. Now with the 7, you can transfer the CPU RAM double stack as one piece, and that makes the job a lot more straightforward. Now let's talk about how these things get damaged. It's still true that the iPhone 7, 8, 10 CPU can get electrical damage. It's still a fairy-like structure of wires. It's still susceptible to the wrong voltages. But if we look at how the 7, the iPhone 7 is structurally, so let's look at that on the good old side cam. If we look at this structurally, that's really like bent over there, like, hello, there we go. Then the way the 7 tends to get damaged is this flexion damage. The board is just so, oh God, now I made it a still image. All right, there we go. Right. Yeah, it tends to just, in this area, especially with drop, it's like it's kind of bound tightly, and you get cracks all through here. You can get cracks on these coils, you can get cracks across the top SD-RAM, and cracks within the die of the CPU itself. So sometimes it will crack, other times the CPU will just lift. And so it's like my favorite Lego. Everybody loves my Lego. Sometimes the CPU will just do this. It will just lift. And that makes CPU transfer a lot more feasible for iPhone 7. So for the first time, we're starting to see a lot of reports of people that are having success with CPU swap. It's now become, for the first time in my opinion, a viable technique, something that actually can be a reasonable thing to learn how to do to really expand what you can do for repair, is iPhone 7, 8, and 10 CPU swap. So, so Mark has one, but he's got a reballed one. Why don't you tell us about this one? This is a board you've been working on today for data recovery, and you've had to do some work here on the CPU. So I want you, Mark, to share your top tips for starting to work on your iPhone 7, 8, and 10 CPU stuff.
All right. Sure.
Alrighty.
So first, where did it go? Where did I put that thing? Where did we go over there?
Your tool?
I left it over here. Yeah. So for a long time now, I've been using my X-Acto blade to pick away the underfill before I lift the CPU. Right?
Yeah.
Because even back to the iPhone 6 and 5 and everything for it, there's components all around it. So
Yes.
if you lift that CPU without picking everything out,
then this happens. then you get some friends that come along with the ride.
You bring the neighborhood with you.
Right.
So you got to pick that all away, and it can be done with a fine-tipped X-Acto blade. That's what I've been doing for a long time, but it's really, really time-consuming, and it's the blade's really too thick. So the tool that has made that job a piece of cake is this guy.
is this guy. Dun, 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 dun.
This guy right here with
Now-
some underfill left over on him.
Yeah, so what has struck me about that guy is I thought that I knew that guy already. I thought he was already a good friend, but he's different than these guys, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so we have, let's see if you can kind of see.
Here, I'll
Let's
grab
just-
one.
Here, let's make a new tray that's dump out of these guys.
Okay.
All right, so we've got,
Totally prepared.
yes, very prepared, very professional. Yes, been planning this for days. All right, here we go.
All right. So
Actually, let's do this on the side cam. This is silly.
look at, you can see the difference in the thickness though.
Yeah, that's true. All right, still doing it on
Yeah.
side cam.
All right. So
These guys, everybody has one of these. This is the IC remover tool set, and iPad Rehab Supply and lots of other places have been selling this for a long time. And I thought that all of these were the same, that this version and the other version and the gold version and the version with this handle, the version with the two handles. I thought that that was all pretty much variations of the same product. But that's not true. It's actually completely different thicknesses. And that has been one of our big keys in understanding and having success with our 7, 8, and 10 CPUs. So
'cause
these...
that underfill's a lot harder.
Yes, it's a completely different beast. So you can't just inherit the problem from the previous. It's new all the time. That's what I like about this job. It's always something interesting you got to figure out and research new stuff all the time. So these guys, the silver guys, these are great. Still love them. And what I like these for, you tell me what you like them for. I like them for NAND removal. It's my favorite tool for taking off a NAND. How about you?
Any underfilled chip removal.
Any underfilled chip removal.
Yeah, for sliding between the chip and the board.
Yep. So these guys are thin silver ones, and you can,
And the ones with the hooks on them they have a use. The silver thinner ones that have the same kind of shape at the end. Those are useful for like if you want to pick all of the softer waterproofing from between the components near the connectors. If you want to pick
silicone stuff.
yeah, from around the TriStar on the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus. And some of the earlier iPhones that have the softer underfill around the CPU, they can work for that too.
So I thought that these were identical to these ones, but they're not. These are at least twice as thick. You can just even tell from here that it's way, way sturdier. And so that makes this a really awesome tool that's ideal for your CPU work. So the job of scraping that border, scrape, between your CPU and the rows of coils that you don't want to disturb those guys, this really makes that night and day difference. So this is the right tool for that job.
And it makes it very easy to do it without scoring or damaging the top of the board.
Yes, so when you get down, you're not dragging through copper and making your little copper square around the chip you're trying to get off. Gotcha. So we have both of these available at iPad Rehab Supply. So remember, we only stock the stuff that we really believe in, and we're going to start, telling you more about why on these videos. That blade is nasty. I dare you to lick it. Stand behind your blade. Oh.
Oh, it's salty.
That's the other difference. The iPhone 6 series are all sweet, just like lollipop candy. Okay, so that's your tip number one is that there's a difference between these. You got to use the right tool. Now, what tool do you use to actually lift the CPU up?
I prefer this guy. So this.
We're not on him anymore. Just lay him down.
Okay. Here. Yeah. This one.
Okay.
Yeah. He gets right up in there. I get one corner started, and then I slide the rest under, and just kind of work him up.
Do you?
Yeah.
I still like the round guy because I like that round edge where I just kind of like.
I use this for everything but CPU.
Yeah, I still like it because you're kind of like trying to figure out whether you kind of do this motion where you're just sort of like cutting into it and you're not really sure. You know. All right, but it definitely can't be the gold ones. The gold ones are too thick.
Oh yeah, too thick.
All right, so there you go. That is tip number 1, the IC remover tools. There's different ones for different uses. So what's your next tip, Mark?
Oh God, what was it?
You were telling me today, I don't know if this is what you had planned. One of the things that I have always wondered is what is the right technique, the best technique for actually clearing the underfill off the bottom of the chip. So let's look at this one. This is an iPhone 7, and I will spend a long time, trying to, I'm going to scrape this off with some low heat, and I always wonder, should I use braid? And I always wonder, what I end up doing is I put it into our favorite Fine Fix board holder. I end up putting it in here so that I can kind of get an edge or a border to, press the chip up on like that, some kind of an edge like that, so that I can use, tools to, scrape that. And I usually end up actually using, for some reason, I'm just really comfortable with the green tweezers, so I use that. So you do it differently. So tell us what your thoughts are.
I like to just do it face up on the hot plate. So I set my hot plate at a temperature that I know won't even melt leaded solder, let alone the lead-free that's holding the RAM to the CPU. So there's no risk there of creating any bridging or anything.
Okay.
And the CPU itself can tolerate that amount of heat for extended periods while you're cleaning it.
And you found that just by trial and error, right? Because
Yeah.
I was always too afraid to put the delicate flower CPU on even just warm plate, and then also like how do you keep it from moving off?
I hold it in place by just laying some flat tweezers, long tweezers down on top to hold it in place while I pick away with my finer tip sharp tweezers.
All right. Okay.
I also will go over it with like leaded solder, and then go over it with wick to like knock those balls way down.
Yes, that's a good general strategy as well. All right, now here's a big difference though. We can see here that this iPhone 7 CPU is made out of some material that is...
It's very similar to the other smaller chips we're used to seeing, like Mason and Touch IC and Cumulus. They're all like the iPhone 7 CPU on the bottom.
Yes, and they're orange and like that, and they have that same durability / fragility.
Yeah.
Whereas the sort of the green CPU with the little tight pitch
that is basically a PCB.
Right. So look at the difference in pitch and how close together the balls are on the iPhone 6, the A8, versus the A10, the iPhone 7. It's a lot more forgiving because there's so much, the spacing seems to be bigger.
It makes sense why there's a lot more people posting about successful CPU work.
Right,
now.
And they're all iPhone 7, 8, and 10, which makes sense because in the iPhone 6, the CPU is probably dead, and if you do transfer it, you're going to have to do a lot more masking because there's so much more ground. You have to use one of those UV blockers. So you put your UV down, and then you cure it, and then you wipe it with one of those mask tools, which are cool. But again, something that we've never really recommended that anybody get into that. Then all that changes now with the iPhone 7. All right, so what's up with... what are these?
Those, I'm not sure if they're capacitors or diodes. I think they're capacitors.
Yeah, built in. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like Chestnut's nut. It's an actual scrotum, these 3 little ball sacks on the CPU itself.
Yep, and they sit in little cutouts in the board.
Yeah. All right. So what about the overall fragility then? Like when you there's a big difference there. So tell us about that, because I know that it's really easy, and you had some experience with just knocking the pads off. That really doesn't happen on the green guys.
Yeah. So
I've never knocked a pad off of this dude.
With the earlier CPUs, there's not much risk of damaging the pads on the CPU. The risk there is in wearing off that green solder mask that's
Right.
covering up all the traces on the CPU.
Right.
So that's really easy to wear off, but other than that, it's pretty durable, and you just mask over that stuff.
Right.
These newer ones, the 7 and up, the pads themselves are much, much more fragile.
They're
off,
almost like NCs. Like they're just
they
like-
come off super easy, but the space between the pads is very durable. But if you were to wear that down and get down to the copper would be gone after just 2 or 3 touches.
So it's tough because you've got to get rid of all of that underfill. So you're kind of like aggressively like get rid of this. It's fatiguing. But then once you get close, stop because you're in danger.
Yeah.
And because you are like one swipe away from there goes the 6 pads.
Yeah, if you take a X-Acto blade and just scrape across the top of the 6 pad,
Yeah.
you could probably do that 10 times with a moderate amount of force before it's gone.
Right.
With that, even with a light touch, if you're taking material off, you can maybe do it 3 times.
Yeah. So there you go. So why don't you show us, do a little demo for us. Let's see you stick your Rebald 7 on this board and see what happens.
All right.
We'll watch Mark in action. There's no way for us to fix the audio problem. We did attempt to mess with some settings, and I think that we successfully got back our resolution for YouTube. But
Oh, yeah. We're going to
need a hot plate. All right. Equipment acquisition. Alrighty. All right, so Mark's plugging in. Let's go to side. 1080p is back. Yeah, 1080p now featuring man voice. The man voice channel. I kind of feel like I do have a bit of a man voice in general, and now being sick, and it's just doing me no favors.
And, testosterone you've been taking.
Right. How else can you? That's the other thing. You have to take a lot of testosterone if you want to be able to swap CPUs. That's definitely true.
Yeah.
All right. So Mark's on the preheater, and let's see. So, show us what's wrong with your voice, guys. We're doing this one laughing gas. Oh my God, Mark! What if the fumes from next door are what made our voices go low? All right, so this is already cleaned pads. Now, did you braid these pads?
I did. I did braid
You
these
did?
pads. Yep.
You want to know a secret?
What's
I
that?
also will braid pads when I'm doing CPU stuff.
Yep. I suspected as much.
You suspected as much. I don't like to. Don't spread that around.
I am definitely going to tell Lewis.
No! You can tell the whole world except Lewis. That's
The next
all I
time you're
ask.
doing a CPU job, I'm going to secretly take a picture and send it to him.
No, don't do that. That's not cool at all. All right.
All right, come on, Flux. Spread around a little bit. Don't need a ton of it. I just want it to be everywhere.
All right. Let's make sure that you're plugged in. Are you?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. Because this one kind of comes out sometimes.
Yeah. I
Every
know.
now and then I'll be like, this is taking a really long time. And it's because the preheater has turned off. All right.
All right. What is this set to? We're gonna turn it down just a little bit.
Do you know where your dot goes?
Yeah, it goes where I put it.
Alrighty.
There we go. Now I could probably put
Just
this
let it
on
sit
with-
there and
you
like
just
melt.
crank it up a
I
little
did
bit.
that once with a baseband CPU.
Yeah.
Because it was just like totally on there. It was like the perfect temperature. I don't know what that temperature is. That's up to you.
I already said it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
I was on top of that shit.
Yes.
stuff.
So Mark cried today, everyone. This is you know what? And here's another tip. This is a tip from Jessa that I am going to share with you after witnessing Mark crying today. So Mark did a successful CPU transfer earlier today, which he was using to do an experiment on some of the Maggie lines for iPhone 7, which is really cool. Once you master the skill, it gives you the ability to put jumpers, underlines, or to just see why is error 4013 caused. Is it take up the CPU? This pad comes up. Was it that? So he was doing some experiments, and he had one that he wanted to just move over a resistor for on his experiment, and it took him. He was proud of it. He was gonna show it on stream maybe, and then he was moving the resistor. He looked it up, and his first resistor that he had just flew away. So he has to go get another one. So he looks up another one. He knows where it is, and he goes to harvest it off of the donor board to move it over into the place of the missing one. And he's, using the donor board, so he's just blasting heat on it, just trying to be really careful of the resistor and screw the PMIC and everything else. And he takes off the resistor, and then he goes to move it over, and then he realizes, oh shit. Oh shit. The board that he is moving it to, he realizes, is the donor board. The board that he just destroyed was the one he had so carefully just transferred a new CPU, transferred the CPU over, and it had just booted up just fine, and he was only doing this little experiment, and he just totally destroyed it. That made a grown man cry.
Yep, I wanted to go home right then and just I'm done with today.
Yeah, he flipped the table, and so that was tough. And it was funny because Mark told me in his head the whole time, he was thinking, when I'm teaching people how to do CPU work, I'm going to really focus on how you got to take your time and be calm, because when you're rushing, that's when you make mistakes. Then he's like, oh shit!
Let me just quickly move this resistor over.
Real quick, I'm just going to grab this resistor and move it over. Let's see.
Alright, so I'm not used to your hot air station, and I'm erring on the side of caution with temperature.
Do you want me to go turn
So
up?
I have just gone up, I think, 10 or 15 degrees.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to give you
I think maybe another 10 degrees.
10 or airflow?
No, just 10 degrees,
Okay.
nothing more.
Alright, 10 degrees.
Alright.
Alrighty. It's easy mixing them up, says Q's Tech Service.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. Like, I took the resistor I wanted off of its native spot on my donor board, and then lost it, blew it away, and then looked over, checked ZXW, looked through the microscope, confirmed that the board that I was looking at is missing the resistor that I just took off in the position, and then moved over to the position that I wanted, the new one. But I forgot that, while I was moving it over, I swapped boards out. I'm like, yep, look through the yep, that's my donor board.
Yeah. That's such a killer team.
Alright, I think we may need another 10 degrees.
Alright.
Man, you're hot. You need to change this element.
I just did.
Really?
Yeah.
You need to calibrate. Because on mine, where are we at? Yeah, on mine, I do this 40 lower.
I don't know what to tell you. How many times have you dropped your nozzle on the floor? Less than 100 or more than 100?
0. Exactly 0.
What?
Yeah.
Noob.
Alright, we're getting in the range that's gonna melt this now.
Nice and slow. Easy and patient.
Yeah. So I am not at all worried about the length of time because I know that if things aren't hot enough to melt the solder that I'm using, then they're not too hot for the chip.
Yeah. So beautiful. It looks just like native.
We're gonna go up a little more. We're just not. Your JBC just isn't doing the trick for me.
I would put more air on it. I would go
Yeah.
up.
All right.
Air.
Give me a little bit more air.
All right. Here comes some air. This is going to help.
It's a delicate balance. It's a dance.
It is. It's a dance called. Please, bro. What temperature for putting on a rehat CPU, bro? Mark is rehotting the CPU, bro. Right now, Mark is rehotting CPU. Is this rehotting or just hotting?
Well, I mean, I hotted it once, so this is another hotness. It's a rehot.
It is a rehot. Yeah. You reballed, and now you're gonna rehot.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
That's good. I think you're in the.
No. That was only one side. I think this side's got to come down.
Neighborhood. You're cooking with gas. I'm really tempted to give you another couple percents of air. I didn't do it, but I could. I'm gonna give you 1% more.
I'm gonna trust you.
All right. There. I'll put you up to that. If that's what you need.
I hate how every time I work on stream, it's at your station, which I'm not used to. It's like I never get to stream with my tools that
let's do that. Let's like create all this shit back in the back until Mark's awful. We'll do a little Mark station thing. I find your station incredibly difficult to work out. Your little like bird bench.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
With your weird Barlow lens and your unusual cables and I don't know where anything is.
Alright, come on. You should be... why are you not doing it yet?
I think he's good. I think you should...
He's not.
Just, like, test.
How
badly do you want to give him a nudge?
I have been trying to.
Oh, okay. Maybe is that the same preheater that you use?
It is.
I mean, you're just kind of. It seems like that should be good. Anything else?
Fingers are hot. I just want to see it.
You did
jiggle
on the top left a little bit.
Yeah, that left side dropped. Ooh, I think I just touched it.
Don't
All right.
touch it.
Yeah, I know.
Don't touch it. Hiding CPU.
All right. We need just a tiny bit more degrees.
Okay.
That's a lot of beeps. I'm hearing a lot of beeps come from over there. Oh, Jesus. Jessa.
I'm just making it go back and forth to freak you out.
Oh, God.
That's really fun.
You're killing me. That's not funny. Like,
I know that's funny.
I just heard it go up 5 or 50 degrees. There we go. I saw the jiggle.
You saw the jiggle.
All right. Now we have
now
to...
you should memorize that.
Ah, yes. Now we have to let it cool for a while because it is...
So can I touch it?
No, we do not want to disturb the balls. So there's,
another tip.
there's another tip.
Another tip from Mark.
Let it cool. Don't fucking touch it. It's a souffle, right? You You gotta leave it alone.
Don't do it when Sunday can just walk by. So tell us about when you showed me one of your CPUs you reballed a while ago, and you were like, Jessa, check out my balls. And you were like, chip's a little hot.
Oh, yeah. My freshly reballed chip that, I'm like, yeah, it's a little hot, but I can hold it. It's just, it's. Look at that. I have a mark on my finger.
Let's show us some here. Don't touch the tip. Here's another workman's comp from Mark.
Yeah.
There we go. That's Mark's CPU.
Burn straight across.
Yeah, it's in the what not to do column.
Jessica grabs it and
he's like, look at my balls, they're so awesome.
She's like, did you mean to have all these ones on this edge bridge together?
Yeah, like this big smear. Is that something you're doing new? Oh, all right. Don't touch Mark's balls. All right.
Okay, it's cooled off enough to move.
All right, let's read some chat. Let it cool down, and you can stick it in housing. We'll see what's the deal. We cannot help the audio problem. That is, who knows what. We'll have to get our tech support, Louis Rossman, to come back here and fix whatever he messed up.
Yeah.
We'll have to do that. So this stream has been all about CPU and why the CPUs from the iPhone 6 series were always electrically damaged, difficult to work with, and had a really low rate of success. All that has changed. Now with the iPhone 7, 8, and 10, these get a lot more fracture damage, and so you can find a lot more, it makes a lot more sense to repair. So we have been so excited. We are not yet ready to share any details or tell you any of the juice, but we are planning in the works a CPU masterclass. So we're thinking 8 to 10 days here in beautiful Rochester this spring. We are going to be bringing in some partners from China that we're really excited to share with you guys, and we're going to be doing all sorts of fun stuff. We're going to be talking about all your iPhone 10, 10s, reballing stuff, all of your troubleshooting for those devices that they see a lot in China that in the US we haven't yet had a chance to work with very much. We're going to be doing, it's advanced students only, no beginners. So you have to have already come to iPad Rehab Practical Board Repair School, or you can apply if you are experienced and you think that you have what it takes to skip over our introductory signature Practical Board Repair School course. Or you can come into both. You can still sign up to come to our March class or April course that are regular signature course before the master class happens. And let's see. So are we ready to test?
It is cooled down.
Alrighty.
I just finally found a good screen.
Alrighty. So let's see. Do you have the passcode? Do you have the ticket?
Where did I put that? It was with the housing.
I see an Apple logo.
Yeah, Apple.
Oh, we can't see. There we go. All right, Mark.
Apple logo.
And spin. That's it. I think we should stop.
Yeah, we're good.
No need to look. No need to look. No need to look here. Nothing's going on.
Let's see. I'm going to get the passcode.
Let's see. Yes.
Yes. And now.
Don't touch it.
We have.
Don't show their passcode. All right. Just do like.
Yeah.
Yay!
We have touch.
Yay! Awesome. Well done, Mark. Very good. Very good. Very good. Exciting.
All right.
All right. Go recover that.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect.
Yeah, right.
Awesome. Okay. So there you go. That is just a little bit of our tips and tricks for CPU swap, and we want you guys to check out iPad Rehab Supply. We're going to be listing more and more of our favorite tools for expanding into this kind of work. And we want you guys to share your tips and tricks as you start doing your kind of advanced advanced CPU swap and all of those good techniques, working on your iPhone 10 boards. And if you want to do advanced training, then stay tuned. May 2019, this is going to be a huge event. We're taking 30 students all in one room, the world's best microsolders coming together. It's going to be the event of the year for sure for microsoldering. We are so excited. It is beautiful here in May. It's the best time of the year here in the Finger Lakes. So get ready for it. Masterclass is coming this May, and I will see you there.